Welcome to the PFC300 market launch. My name is Charlie Norris. I'm the Director of Product Management for Automation. And I'm really excited to talk about the features of the PFC300 and talk about how this new product will help customers with specific tasks that they're trying to achieve. So with that, let's get started. So how does this new product fit in our product lineup? It's a high-end application, so for high-end applications, sophisticated applications. Of course, we have the basic controller. These are for more budget-conscious applications. The PFC100 is great for those standalone systems that an OEM might have for simple control. Our PFC200 is our mid-level. It's quite capable and it has a lot of features on it, but it's kind of targeted at that mid-level application. And then, of course, this new PLC is for these higher-end, sophisticated applications. So it's a new product for us. We don't see it as taking over the business of a 200, but we see it as we can now gain additional business with this platform because we have more capabilities than we have had in the past. All right, a little bit about the product itself, the physical attributes. On this device, we have 6 user LEDs. These are programmable by the user. They can use the Codesys software, and they can have these blink in any fashion. Great for any type of monitoring, maybe by a technician or an engineer and wants to know what's going on with the controller when they're looking at the device in a panel. It also has an RS-485 port on board. We do have 2 configurable Ethernet ports. Of course, we also have an SD card slot with some expanded types of SD cards that it supports. And one big difference is now we have a direct service port on the device, as we did with the PFC200, but the connection is USB-C, so it doesn't take a proprietary cable for this particular port. So it makes it easier for the end customer to connect to this device. I've also provided here an overview of the different controllers that we have, a little bit about the features of each controller. And I want to talk about not just the feature, but why is it important to the customer. We'll start with the CPU. On the PFC300, it's a dual core processor on board. Each core runs at 1.4 gigahertz. Also, this is a 64-bit processor, so all of our other devices are 32-bit. So this offers a lot more speed. It's about 10 times more powerful than the PFC200. I mentioned we have an SD card slot on board. The SD card slot for the PFC300 will accept data up to 2 terabytes versus the PFC200, which is only 32 gigabytes, so 62% more storage. The 2 Ethernet ports on the device are gigabit based, so they have 10 times more communication capacity or bandwidth. Also, just on the bottom here, I'm going to talk about the hands-on examples that these devices we can recommend that they can support up to 500 OPC-UA tags. Also, this device can be an Profinet master, and we can recommend have up to 16 devices connected to the device. So versus only 2 devices with a Gen 2 PFC200. The price is about 8% more for the PFC300 versus a PFC200. So with a little bit of a bump increase in price, you get a lot additional horsepower. So some customers might find that attractive and might move to that platform or the PFC3 platform. But if the PFC200 meets their needs, right, it's not going anywhere. It's definitely a good choice as well. There's lots of features that the PFC300 brings to a customer, and I'm going to go through or run through a lot of these features there. I don't have enough time to cover all of them, but I'll give you some examples of resources where you can look more to get more information about the PFC300. So let's first start off with our ability to be field bus independent. We support the most popular field buses with the PFC300 right out of the box. So PFC300 will support Modbus, Ethernet IP, Profinet, and EtherCAT. It can be a master for all these. It also can be an adapter device or a client device for all these except for EtherCAT. It can only be an EtherCAT master. So the nice thing is for an OEM that an OEM can design the PFC300 on their platform, and no matter what their customer's home network is, being an Ethernet IP or Modbus or whatever it is, the OEM doesn't have to redesign their whole system. They can just use this controller, reconfigure which platform or which field bus they need to use, and they're off and running. No redesign of the system. So it really offers a lot of savings to the end user, especially an OEM, that they don't have to redesign their system each time a customer calls for a different type of field bus platform. All right. Also, as you know, with our other platforms, we're hearing more and more customers wanting to connect to cloud servers or SCADA systems, and we can do that easily out of the box. The PFC300 also supports the MQTT protocol, as well as OPC-UA, as already mentioned. We also, via a license, can support the Sparkplug protocol, which is based on MQTT. But these are all standard protocols that are used to connect to SCADA systems or clouds, and we have security built in with TLS 1.3 security, so we can offer a very secure connection up to those cloud platforms. All right. Also, we have a focus on energy industries, and we support a whole host of energy protocols. Of course, in North America, DMP3 is probably mostly used in the energy industry today, and of course we support that via a license. We also have capabilities with other licenses for IEC 61850 or 60870, are commonly used in the utility industry. We launched last year our DER controller capabilities, and with a function block we can support the IEEE 1547 standard, which is used in the energy industry. And now with renewable devices becoming more and more popular in the Americas, we also support Sunspec Modbus protocol. This comes with the platform. It's a free library. So if you want to connect to an inverter that converts AC or DC power into AC power, it most likely speaks Sunspec Modbus, so we can do that today. And we're working on the 2035 standard, so probably by the end of the year we'll also be able to offer another protocol. So a lot of focus on this energy industry, and we really can help our customers out with giving them the flexibility or a gateway between these different types of protocols with the PFC300. I want to touch on building automation a little bit. BACnet is the key protocol used in building. Out of the box, the PFC300 will not support BACnet. However, we have a firmware update coming in Q2, so we'll be able to add BACnet with a license to this device in the second quarter of this year. But I also mentioned, we have a lot of I/O modules that support other building automation protocols like DALI or KNX or MP-Bus, right? So we can help our customers with a gateway between a lot of these field protocols with the BACnet protocol. Of course, we're going to have to wait a few months for that, but it's coming. All right. I mentioned that we have a multi-core processor. This is a dual-core processor. And you might ask, well, how does that help the customer? And as you know, you probably think, oh, that's a lot more speed. And that's what it is. It's more speed, more horsepower with a multi-core processor. But what we have the ability is via code assist, we allow the customer to write their code in different sections. And we call them POUs, or programmable organization units. And we allow the customer to assign a POU to a particular core. So where this is very important is that maybe there's a very code-heavy application, and the customer wants to balance that, so they can assign different POUs or different sections of their code into Core 1 and Core 2, and this allows them to have a nice balance of load. But they have other applications where they have a strategy where maybe they have a very critical some critical code that they want to process as fast as possible, well, they can put that code in the first core, and then everything else with a lower priority could go in the second core, right? So they can balance, or they can have a strategy where maybe it's not quite balanced, but it will allow them to execute that code as fast as possible. We also have the capability of just letting the controller pick how it will to balance the load, and it will try to balance the load between those two cores automatically as well. So a lot of different features, but it gives that customer a lot of flexibility. As we know, availability on the plant floor is very important, and we have added a new feature in the PFC300s, which is called the Rapid Spanning Tree Protocol. And this is a ring redundancy protocol. So this allows a user to wire an Ethernet network in a ring topology. Normally this is a problem. You can't do this usually because Ethernet packets never come off the network. But if you use a ring technology like Rapid Spanning Tree, the PFC300 will actually block a port, virtually block a port. And so in the case that a cable is disconnected somewhere, or a fork truck runs into the cable, the system can still communicate from device to device. It will reconfigure itself easily. And the nice thing that we're offering that others don't offer in the platform is we don't need to use a managed switch for this type of topology. Rapid Spanning Tree protocol is built right into the controller. It's very easy to configure via the web-based management, and this is a nice tool to offer to customers. It helps them reduce costs, plus it helps them increase availability of their network. Of course, like our other controllers, we support dynamic web pages right in the device. The PFC300 also has a web server built in, and through Codesys applications, you can use the Codesys software to develop web pages or dynamic web pages that get downloaded to the controller. And then during operation, the user can use their favorite web browser, either on a PC or maybe on a tablet that's connected to their network, to view those web pages. So it's like a low-cost HMI, if you will. It's very handy for operators, or it's even handy for technicians that may be looking to do some troubleshooting or see what's going on in the system. So a very nice tool. Nice thing about this, the user doesn't have to be an HTML expert. They just have to know Codesys. If they can do PowerPoint, they can create these web pages right into the Codesys software. For easy to use, and offers the customer a huge advantage. We have a lot of customers also talk about their networks that are very heavy with communications, right? A lot of times the IT department aren't responsible for the plant floor communications. So a lot of times there's maybe more communication on plant floor networks than is desired. And sometimes that can affect a PLC controller because it's overwhelmed by the amount of traffic that's coming in Ethernet ports. But we have a tool built into the PFC300, which is built in for storm control, and we can limit the amount of multicast or broadcast data that comes into the controller. We can have a top end, and this helps prevent the controller from being overwhelmed from most cases it is when there's a broadcast storm that's on a network by multiple devices, right? And it's not malicious, it's just the way the networks work. But there are cases where you can have a denial of service attack where an end user or hacker tries to flood the network and overwhelm it. But in either case, the storm control is built in and can help protect the controller operate even in these areas when there's high traffic on a network. So a nice tool, it's built in the controller, no managed switch needed for this type of monitoring. So cost savings. We also have customers asking about redundant controllers. So in higher, more critical applications, redundant controller redundancy or even network redundancy is important. We do have a couple of options for redundant controllers. We offer a license for CodeAssist. In CodeAssist, you can develop a redundant controller system via license. We also offer an application called the Application Controller Redundancy, or ACR, which could be used with our controllers to be able to offer a redundant controller application. So a lot of value with this. This is it has a recovery time around 200 milliseconds. So it is not a hot backup, but it is makes a nice offering, low cost offering for most applications that can withstand a 200 millisecond downtime. We have even more features available, and I don't have the time to go through them all, but we do have this PFC300 PowerPoint. It's an overview of a lot of the top 20 key features, many of which I've already mentioned, but there's additional, so you can check out that PowerPoint to get more information. We've also developed a very in-depth frequently asked questions that can help you navigate questions around the function and features of the PFC300. And also we have a nice new controller brochure. It's an overview of all of our controllers and kind of helps the customer guide them through what type of controller they need for their particular application. So we have a lot of great tools in our product launch. So we look forward to getting these materials out to you. So with that, the PFC300, which is the part number 7508302, we have it in stock here in Germantown. It is a state-of-the-art, high-end processor for those more sophisticated applications that your customers have. And we look forward to working with you on helping customers meet their needs in these automation applications. So thank you for your attention, and we're going to take some questions here at the end.
Hi, and welcome to the market launch for the new WAGO Visual Panel 200 series line of HMIs. I'm John Wozniak, the product manager for Automation Digital Products here at WAGO. Today we're talking about the new Visual Panel 200 series HMI. Let's start by talking about where our current WAGO HMI portfolio stands. Today we have the Touch Panel 600 line of HMIs. That includes the Touch Panel 600 control panel, the combined HMI and PLC. We also have the Touch Panel 600 Visu panel, a traditional HMI that communicates with WAGO controllers. And then we have the Touch Panel 600 web panel, a web panel that uses the visualizations from a controller and communicates with traditionally a WAGO CodeAssist controller. So we've defined, and we know that we compete with Maple Systems and all these other lower end HMI products, and it's difficult for us to compete with those other products. And we've defined this HMI market product gap. So we've decided, and we've come up with this new Visual Panel 200 line of HMIs to fill that product gap. Now, we didn't want to go all the way down to the low performance versions, but we knew we needed to compete with them on a price level. So we've introduced this new Visual Panel 200. And where does this sit? What kind of options and what's the overview of these specifications for these Visual Panel 200 products? Well, as you can see, the specifications are quite extensive. As a minimum, there's 50,000 hours of backlight, and that translates into just about 5.5 years of continuous operation. They're all single touch resistive. The 7 and the 10 inch have IP68, whereas the 4 inch has IP65, which is higher or more extensive than our typical competitors. They also have NEMA 4X and 12. Like all of our automation products. They have a Linux operating system. And like our XTR, they have a wide operating temperature option. How do I program this? Well, there's a free application software called the Visual Designer software application. It's a no-cost visualization program. Here's some more specs. Here's the part numbers, some resolutions. What I've emphasized on this particular table is that the 7-inch has a 1000 brightness, which is a daylight readable version. We also have the 210WT, which has 1200 brightness, which again is also daylight readable. We also have a standard 10-inch and a 4-inch HMI. You'll notice that the 7 and the 10 both have 2 Ethernet ports. Both of them are gigabit Ethernet ports. Each of them, all 4 of them, have a USB. All 4 have RS-45, RS-232, RS-422 serial communications. The 7 and the 10 also have an additional micro SD card slot for increased memory here. What other options are available with this visual panel? Well, the industrial field bus protocol option is extensive. We have IoT communications, so we can talk MQTT or OPC-UA to your IoT options. There's also standard Ethernet communications to talk to your, to the WAGO controllers, as well as any other controller that uses Modbus, Ethernet AP, even OPC-UA. There's standard serial communications like your RS-232, RS-45, like we talked about before. And because of the standard Ethernet communications and the standard serial communications, this particular line of HMIs can talk with multiple PLC manufacturers, Siemens, Rockwell, Schneider. Pretty much you name the PLC or the controller, and this Visual Panel 200 can communicate with those. One other option, because there's multiple ports, including 2 Ethernet ports on the 7 and the 10, this visual panel can communicate on different networks to different PLCs. So I can be talking with Siemens on one of the Ethernet ports and Rockwell on one of the other Ethernet ports. Or I can be talking with one controller on RS-45 or RS-232, and I can be talking with Siemens or Rockwell on one of the Ethernet ports. So you can be talking with multiple different controllers. Matter of fact, each one of these panels has a minimum of 10 different controllers they can be communicating with at any single time. In addition, like all of our other automation products, they're sturdy and they're durable. These particular HMIs have an IP68 rating along with an NEMA 4X and 12 certification. They're designed for continuous operation and control cabinets, even in the harshest conditions. I mean, going down to -30 with the 210WT, and our 7 and our 10 can go all the way up to 70 degrees C. That gets pretty warm. The visual panel 210 is designed for use with those sturdy, like our XTR PLC. They're all UL, CUL, and CE certified. So they're used for across applications and industries in North America, South America, and because of the CE marking, they're available and they're certified for use in Europe. They have high compatibility with the widescreen and standard high brightness. These provide improved graphics over a majority of your current HMIs on the market today. I'm going to repeat, the Visual Panel 207 and the 210 both have high daylight readable brightness. And with the IP68, you can use these in outside activities. They have improved accuracy and durability. They all have resistive touchscreen, but the 210 and the 210WT have 5-wire resistive for long-lasting and high precise performance. What kind of connections and options do I have on these? Well, because they're WAGO products, they use the standard WAGO cage clamp connectors. And that's both for the 24-volt power input and on the 7 and the 10-inch for the cage clamp serial connection options. For the 4-inch, the DB9 serial connector comes standard, and that DB9 serial connector is used for the RS-232, the 422, and the 485. Each of them have at least 1 gigabit, with the 7 and the 10 providing 2 gigabit Ethernet ports. They all have a USB input, with the 7 and the 10-inch options also providing that audio jack. They also provide that USB-C tool input and that additional micro SD card slot for additional memory. Because we use the WAGO cage clamp technology, this provides highly secure and fast maintenance-free wiring for all of our HMIs. Well, how do I program the visualizations to use on these HMIs? Well, the WAGO Visual Designer software program, a free program that is easy to use. It has an intuitive interface and a user-friendly design. There's no licensing cost, and like I said, you can download it for free off our website. It has enhanced graphics with extensive built-in object libraries, so a majority of the time you won't have to import any images for use on your HMIs. But if you need to, you can import images for use on your HMIs. You can import PDF files. You can import GIFs for, movable. There's animated graphics that are built in. You can also upload those graphics if you wish. It has multiple PLC drivers, and I can't emphasize that enough, that this particular HMI can be used with the majority of the controllers that are on the market today, of course, including the new WAGO PFC300. It supports common HMI tasks that are available on most other HMIs. That's why we compete so well with all of the other products. It has alarm handling, it has recipes, it has user management and trending and dialogue dialogue options. What are the target markets for this particular panel? With the advanced technical features available, this is an ideal OEM market HMI. It's designed for those particular markets. We also think it's ideal for existing WAGO customers. Your existing coupler and remote I/O customers that just can't find the reason to move off their third-party PLC, this will work with that particular PLC, and it's ideal for those. One more step in getting more WAGO into your customers' hands. It's for terminal block customers as well as those third-party PLCs. This is also a way to get into those new customers, to get into the door of those customers that just can't quite get to those, even the couplers or the terminal blocks. This is a way to get into the door with those customers. Of course, because it's budget conscious, it has easy installation. It's designed for use with integrators because it has a user-friendly, intuitive visual designer software and interface that these integrators will not have to pay for, whether it's for a licensing fee or even to download. And remember, anytime this visual panel is available, it comes with our WAGO technical support and service. That technical support and service is huge because it's no cost compared to any other PLC customer on the market. Here's what you've been waiting for, the Visual Panel 200 series pricing. Here's your part numbers, here's the brief description of what those parts are, and here's the list price. Notice that the list price is about $100 an inch for your standard 2, 4, and 7. For your wide temperature 10, it's a little higher. But they compete very well with any HMI in the market. And we've created these competitor analysis sheets, one sheet for each HMI. This is just the 7-inch product, and you'll notice that it's almost half the cost of the HMIs on the market. You might say, oh, the Maple System's cheaper. Yes, the Maple Systems is definitely cheaper in all respects. It doesn't have multiple Ethernet ports. It doesn't have gigabit Ethernet. It doesn't have expandable storage. But most importantly, it's not UL listed. Like again, we have these sheets available for each of the four of the Visual Panel 200s. What other assets are available? What other tools can WAGO provide for you to be successful with this Visual Panel 200 HMI? Of course, the battle cards. We have a product release. We have FAQs that say, oh, can I use this with WAGO PFCs? Well, absolutely. We have this new transformation brochure. It's our new touch panel HMI brochure. We have product images available. And of course, we have new white papers that extol the virtues of the WAGO Visual Panel 200. As a brief overview, this is an OEM-focused, it's a traditional HMI for those budget-conscious users that we can't quite get to our touch panel 600 line. It has versatile and plethora of communication options, whether you want to communicate with a third-party PLC or serial communications, Ethernet IP, MQTT for IoT. It can communicate with pretty much any PLC on the market, any controller on the market. It includes our free state-of-the-art Visual Designer HMI program with a modern and intuitive user interface which will simplify your HMI project. Makes it easy and accessible to users of this visualization program for most any skill level. It has wide operating conditions, including extensive IP rating for an HMI. Thank you for listening. This was the Visual Panel 200. Everybody have a great day and thank you.
Hello, my name is James LeBeau, Product Manager for Electronic Interface at WAGO Corporation here in the United States. And today, I'm happy to introduce our new 2587 base series power supplies. Before we get into the specifics of the base series power supply family, let's talk about our portfolio of power supplies as a whole. WAGO has a very high-priced, high-performance power supply, very feature-rich, with some boost capabilities in our Pro 2 power supply family. Still great for a lot of good applications. At the mid-range of our power supply portfolio is our Eco 2 series of products. This family will continue to grow throughout the year and offer some nice feedback functionality through a DC-OK contact and some advanced approvals. And finally, what we're launching today is 3 variants of our new base series power supply, a very economical and high-quality power supply. Another way to look at these families on a graph is a price-to-performance chart. High performance, yet higher priced, is our Pro 2 family of power supply. In the middle of the graph here, we got our Eco 2 family of power supply. And finally, our new base series power supply. So why would you want to sell one power supply over the other? It's important to qualify customers first and understand their needs and understand the differences of each of these products to help guide your customer into the right power supply for the right application. Starting with our base series power supply, it's a very feature-rich power supply, but no boost capabilities. We have high efficiencies on this power supply, which is excellent given the price level of this power supply. In terms of feedback, all you get on this power supply is a DC-OK LED. There's no contact, no nothing, just a simple visual indication on device. Certificates and approvals are very basic. Simple CE approval and UL approval for use in UL 508 panels. And our termination technology of choice here is going to be our pushing cage clamp technology that's tool operated. Trying to find the most affordable connection technology using springs. So why would you jump into the Eco 2? Well, Eco 2 has slightly more better efficiency. That's good for every application. Here in the Eco 2 family, we also offer a DCOK LED, just like the base family, but you also get the DCOK contact. So if you want simple feedback control into a PLC to monitor the status of that power supply, ensure that power supply is running, you can use that DCOK contact to monitor. We do also offer an overload LED on these devices. In terms of approvals, we take a step up in approvals here. We offer UL class, HAZLOC class 1 div 2 as a standard offering on our Eco 2 power supplies. And of course, the most obvious differentiator is our termination technology of choice. Here we're using lever terminals. Finally, our Pro 2 high-end. Why would you use a Pro 2 high-end power supply? If you need those if you have high startup loads, high inrush currents, Power Boost and Top Boost can help facilitate that. This is even more efficient than the other two offerings. And we have advanced communication technologies on this power supply through add-on communication modules. Communication protocol support include IO-Link, Modbus RTU, Modbus TCP, and Ethernet IP with MQTT. The Pro 2 family also comes in more advanced approvals, options for more advanced approvals. Here we get DNV marine approvals. WAGO is currently working on some ATEX approvals for this device as well, in addition to our HAZLOC approvals for this device. And of course, you'll notice the termination technology of choice here is the pluggable connectors. So let's dive deep into the specifics of our new base series power supply. As mentioned, we're excited to launch 3 new SKUs of power supplies to the WAGO portfolio. Our base series is taking on the 2587 series nomenclature. So when you look at our power supply families, you get 2587 for base, 2687 for Eco 2, and 2787 for Pro 2. Everything after that will be the same. So a 2144 power supply is going to be a 5 amp, 24 volt, single phase input power supply. 2146 would be a 10 amp, 24 volt, single phase input power supply, and so on, making nomenclature relatively easy to understand across the family. All devices launching with the base power supply family are going to be AC input, 120/240 AC input, 24 volt power supplies coming in 5, 10, 20 amp outputs, or 120, 240, 480 watt outputs, respectively. As you will see, we have a wide operating temperature range. Not shown on this chart here is the device is type tested for -40 C. We'll get to that in a minute. Housing for these devices is all metal. And again, the feedback mechanism on the device is a visual DCOK indicator. Taking a closer look at the power supply itself, again, you got our metal housing design for sturdiness. It's a very compact design. We'll show you some dimensions here in a second. Accepting a wide range of single-phase inputs on these first 3 SKUs. And again, our connection technology of choice here is a front entry push-in cage clamp wiring that's tool operated. You get a DCOK indicator. And of course, with any power supply, it's critical to have some voltage adjustment to enable the power supply to boost voltage at the source and account for voltage drop across long cable routes. On this supply, you also get a nice QR code that links you right to our data sheet, and you can get instruction sheets and manuals for documentation. Some of the key selling features of this power supply family are very sturdy and durable. Again, the metal housing enables quick and easy installation onto a DIN rail. Convection cooled device, so you got holes at the top and bottom to allow airflow across the electronics inside. But most importantly here, rated temperatures. -30 to +7 degree operating temperature, yet we are type tested down to -40 C. What does that mean? So -30 degrees C operating temperature tells you that you don't want to actuate our termination technology below that temperature. So when you're physically inserting a wire into the device, you want it to be -30 C or above. However, once that wire is in place and the device is sitting in essentially a static state, that device can cool down to -40 and it would still start at -40 without issue. Compact design for this family of product. If you look across all of our power supply families, our base, our Eco 2 and Pro 2, we're roughly 125 millimeters tall. When you look across families within a specific variant there, we're going to be a couple millimeters of each other. With a 5 amp unit on the base series, we're 35 millimeters wide. I think on the Pro 2, we're around 32 millimeters wide. You see there, the base compared to our legacy Eco product, you get 50% savings on the DIN rail with that new design. Where the base power supply differs a little bit from the Eco 2 and Pro 2 is we do vary the depth of the power supply just a little bit. So a 5 amp power supply is not sticking as far off the DIN rail as, say, a 20 amp power supply there. What's nice is the larger power supplies still fit within the same footprint, so that 138 is kind of our max dimension across families off the DIN rail. High efficiency at a low price. Efficiency is great in a power supply because it does two things. One, it reduces power losses due to heat. And what does heat do? Heat causes failure of electrical components. It is one of the more prevalent factors in the mean time between failure calculation. Hence why it's a high mean time between failure on this device. High efficiency means to a longer lasting product. In addition, because you aren't generating as much heat, you don't need as much space around this power supply. So you can save space when designing this power supply into a system. And of course, WAGO's core selling feature here, pushing cage clamp technology. Again, we are choosing tool operated for wire removal in order to make this as most affordable as possible. Some target markets for this power supply. Machine builders, manufacturers and OEMs, packaging machinery, automotive machinery, anything that's being produced in mass quantities. Anybody who's looking to save a couple pennies here or there where they can, this is a great power supply for the cost. Some process industry applications. And finally, some system integrators and panel builders. Those end users looking just to have a single part number on the shelf to rely on for any application. Base power supply series is great for that. Some success that we've seen already with this power supply includes semiconductor manufacturing and clean rooms and glue coating development, some railway infrastructure in terms of asset monitoring systems and turnstile and ticketing and vending machines, and new energy sources. So how is WAGO positioning the base power supply series against our competition? The base power supply series is a very affordable product. We are listing the base power supply 5 amp at a $40 list price. 10 amp is around $64 and 20 amp is $115. Very competitive power supply right out of the gate. But how does that stack up against some competition? So over here on the right, you have WAGO's new base power supply series. If we look at some high competitors in the North American market here, Meanwell's probably been the most prevalent in the industry. At the 5 amp level, we are very comparable in terms of efficiencies. We're slightly narrower on the DIN rail, and we're pretty comparable in terms of price. Where you start to see some differences is at our 10 amp and 20 amp units. WAGO is going to be more efficient than the Meanwell units, as well as save you space on the DIN rail compared to those Meanwell units, and be an affordable alternative, right around the same price. New on the market last year from Phoenix is their new Essential E Series product. The new Essential Series is really going after that Meanwell market share. Where WAGO is going to differentiate here is form factor. We're going to be smaller on the DIN rail, and of course, spring technology. Notice how all the competition here on this chart is using screw connections. WAGO at this level is choosing to use push and cage clamp technology. So spring technology for wire termination is the biggest differentiator, but you do get some ancillary benefits as well in terms of size and some efficiency savings depending on your skill. So, to highlight some tools that we're offering you to sell, for our channel partners and sales representatives, you will be getting our product release, as well as some battle cards, some FAQs, and that competitive analysis to share. For you to share externally with your customers, we have a dedicated sell sheet for you. We are working on updating our power supply brochure to highlight all 3 power supply series in one compact format there. You're going to get a dedicated sales presentation highlighting the technical features and benefits of the base power supply series, some product images, and finally, a nice little video. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time and interest in WAGO's power supply offerings.